Hey everyone! So happy trip leader training. I'm realizing I haven't had a ton of time to connect with every trip leader. So if you don't know me and I'm a new face to you, I'm Carrie. I'm the advisor for Reach Alternative Breaks, and it is definitely my favorite part of my job description. So thank you for all the work that you've been doing up until this point. I'm so psyched to be doing this with you all, and we'll get this show on the road. I do want to just take a minute and kind of acknowledge that has been a really hard week for a lot of people on this campus coming back from fall break. And so that's why we've moved the trip leader training over to a digital format for this one. We'll be back live for November. But a lot of the e-board, and I know a lot of you are feeling a lot of personal struggles right now, and want you to know that we're acknowledging that and trying to give you as much space as possible. So we're here for you, and we're going to accommodate as much as we possibly can. So before we hit the ground running, I just want to show you where to find all the materials that it is I'm going to be referencing during the little video here. I promise I'll try not to take up too much of your time and to be as efficient with my words as humanly possible. So if you go to the Reach Drive, and then I'm going to be doing this with you because I don't remember the exact file path, Reach eBoard 2018-2019, go into the spring break trip folder 2018, and then hit trip leader, and that's the only thing that's really coming up for me. Trip leader training. There is a presentation, there is a file called Greenville_prior, something we'll be referencing, and then copy of master trip checklist, something I'll bring up in a minute, and I think Alexis is going to pop in here a syllabus and a reflection plan as well for you to reference. But for right now, what I need you to open is the trip leader training number 1 file. Okay. So what we're kind of going to go over, looking at the agenda slide, is just some trip updates. Forgive me if I'm not giving the exact correct information on it. It might be a little bit outdated, so hang with me because it's been a second since I've been able to connect with Alexis and the really super nitty-gritty stuff. We're going to talk about priors, what that means. I'm going to be your main person for the prior process, which is how we get all of our money, and it is an accounting process, so it's a little dense. So that's really what I want to focus our time on today, and then we'll briefly look at the meal plan, syllabus, and reflection plan. So moving on to this next slide of trip updates, I just want to touch on each of the 5 trips right now and what people are doing so that everybody kind of knows what the other trip leaders are doing. So the first one, we have Chestertown, Maryland, which is partnering with Mid-Atlantic Border Collie Rescue. That's the trip I was a learning partner for last year, so I'm really excited that Lucas and Jake get to go back. And so their housing is actually on site in the farmhouse of the dog rescue, and everything is inclusive there, so it's really wonderful. For Gladstone, Virginia, which is the James River State Park Environmental Awareness and Restoration with Emily and Philip. Their community partner is confirmed. We had that stuff signed off during the summer, so that is wonderful. We have that done, and their housing is on the state park property, so they're good there. Charleston, South Carolina, so this is one of our new trips with Hayden and Lauren. I know they've been in some recent conversations with Wings for Kids, which I think is the afternoon service is the game plan for Wings for Kids, which just sounds like a super cool organization. I looked a little bit at their website, and I am psyched to see what kind of experience you guys have there. And then also I believe in maybe the beginning conversations with Orphanage Relief Center, hopefully for the morning service, and the housing is confirmed in Charleston. We still need to make that deposit, so Hayden, I might be in touch with you soon about maybe getting that paperwork drawn up so we can include it in the prior. Wilmington, North Carolina, so this is the second new trip that we have this year, and is the one that I know Sarah and Nicole have been trying to just work back and forth for what city are we going to, what issue are we figuring out, and I know in one of our e-board meetings I'm hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could go to Wilmington, and just see what kind of opportunities are there given a lot of the devastation from Hurricane Florence. And so they're working with an organization called WARM, which is around housing insecurity. I'm assuming that would likely also be in some way tied to disaster relief, considering all of the damage that's happened there for a lot of folks' houses. So WARM, I think, needs a deposit still, and we're seeing if there's any other payments that needs to be done. And I can also get a certificate of coverage. Alexis, for insurance, Alexis is keeping me in the loop on that. And then Greenville, one of our tried and true trips. So Project Host is a definite for sure. Frazee Center, I have a question mark. It sounds like it's still going to happen, but maybe in a little bit of a different way that it's happened in the past. And the Project House, I spelled that wrong. Project Host is confirmed, and housing is confirmed with the church. So exciting stuff. You guys have been doing so awesome through summer and through this beginning half of the semester, and we are gunning towards Thanksgiving break. So here goes nothing, right? So moving on to the next slide, which is where really things like we start hitting the ground here on priors. And so when you hear the word prior, there's actually an official title for that. It's kind of a shortened version of prior approval to travel form. And this is going to be due November 14th. So I'm actually going out of town for a wedding right before Thanksgiving break, and I want a chance to get my eyeballs on these priors, and we can get any more paperwork is that we need to get done. But 11/14 is kind of your like, we're going to aim for this date. And what this is it is the financial documentation needed for us to be able to spend money at all on these trips. And since we're traveling, we have to do it this way. We can't buy meals, we can't rent vans, we can't pay for tolls, we can't have a cultural experience, we can't buy work gloves, like we can't do anything without this paperwork. And we have a lot of like strange rules around purchasing because of our status as an anchor organization. So there are some really great benefits and also some like really tough red tape we have to work through as an anchor organization, and this is by far the biggest area of red tape for us. So that's why we need so much headway time. I know you're like, oh my gosh, we are literally not going on these trips until March. Like, why do we need to have things in for Thanksgiving? Because my goal is that we can have everything perfected before we leave for the end of the semester, which is when our financial specialist gets a crap ton of paperwork. And so we just want everything out of the way, financially speaking. So what is needed for a prior? You don't have to have every single detail of your trip planned for us to be able to complete a prior. What we need are the financial pieces of your trip kind of figured out. So that being said, we have to justify everything that it is we're spending. We can't just say, hey, we want like $1 million. We're going to spend it like we should with state funds. We have to provide supporting documentation for the money that we're trying to spend. Some of that can be a little estimated, but for the most part, we're going to need some specific numbers. And I say that, and this sounds a little bit of an oxymoron, but a good general rule of thumb is to budget over what you think it is that you're going to need to spend. So we can spend, say, your trip is $2,000. Like, we can spend $1,800 on the trip. But what will be really hard for us is if we need to spend $2,200, and then we have like paperwork and memos and financial justifications and approval on several levels for us to have spent that money, even though it's our money. So it is easier to budget over and spend under than it is to go over and budget under. So to do this, where kind of some of that flexibility is the number, like the dollars per meal are slightly inflated. Not a ton, but on average, we don't end up using all the money that we spend. We have budgeted for meals, but also rounding up for mileage, particularly with intercity travel. So we'll say hypothetically your trip is 250 miles away, so 500 miles. round trip from Newport News to whatever city it is that you're going to. But you're also going to be traveling, and we'll have this documented out like in MapQuest of like, we're traveling from this church to the community partner and community back to this, this is our travel within the city, so we can, we're traveling an additional 10 miles every day, and we're there for a full 6 days, so an additional 60 miles. But we'll also account for, like, say, 100 miles of just intercity travel of, like, we're doing our cultural experience, but we don't have to have the definite cultural experience defined before we go on the trip. I know that was just a ton of information, and I promise we will look a little bit closer at this and actually flip through a prior and what it is of the paperwork and information that I need from you to be able to put this together. So I'm really like the person orchestrating the prior in its entirety, but I can't do it without supporting documentation from you guys. So we'll look at that closer. So on to the next slide of how do I complete a prior, and I need your supporting documentation. So what this looks like, again, round trip mileage, Newport News to lodging to community partner, in-city travel, back to Newport News, estimated meal cost, and we have estimated cost per meal per person based on some historical records, and we'll look at that budget sheet. Confirmation of your service sites, dates and times, and that's usually done via email unless you have a super fancy place that like sends you a confirmation like via pigeon or something like that, or snail mail. And confirmation of your service and your lodging. So we need to demonstrate that we are going here to do service and we are staying here, and that's why it only cost us $100 because we're staying in a church. If your community partner or lodging requires something with a signature, so Hayden, the Charleston trip did. So we need to get things approved by our lawyer, which is fun because it's a lot of legal jargon that I'm like, what is indemnification? Anything that requires a signature, you can't sign for, I can't sign for, my boss can't sign for, the Dean of Students, Kevin Hughes, can sign for, but the only way he will sign for is if he has the green light from legal counsel. So there's some legality things that we need to try to navigate. So I'm asking that if you do have any documentation that requires a signature, to get that to me no later than November 1st. So that way it gives me a little bit of time to have it emailed to the lawyer to give me edits, and then I'll connect with your like service or your community partner or your lodging place, and like, hey, can we make these edits? Okay, thank you. Like, all I need is your initial, and we'll play the back and forth game a little while, and then I'll loop you back into the conversation so that way your inbox isn't getting exploded. So let me know on that. I think Wilmington, it sounds like we're going to need to get some paperwork done. And that's fine. Just get it in my inbox, and I will do what I can there. So next slide, example of a prior. What I want you to do is go back into the Google Drive, and you'll see the PDF Greenville prior. And it looks a little intimidating, and we'll get through it together. So really, this first page, like, I will fill out, but in order for me to fill out, I need your help. So you'll see this second page on here is a budgeting document, and that is going to be available in each of your files, like your individual trip files, for you to complete. We'll look at that closer in a minute. This third sheet where it says like Greenville SC, Hunger and Housing, where it has community partner, who it is, what's their address, their contact person, their email, their phone number. And so Greenville has 2 community partners, so they have 2 of those. Where is their lodging? And then your trip leader information and your learning partner information, which will come soon. We're going to start that process soon. But you can, if you know this information, like, go ahead and start pulling that together. Okay. Scrolling on down. Oh, and the reason we need this is that it is a quick reference point. For us, for you, we include this in your trip leader like folders into your learning partner. That way, you know, if you roll up at like Project Host and nobody's there, like you have the phone number, you have the email address, you know the name of the contact person that you communicated with, so that way they're not like, sorry, like who is this person? Similarly for lodging, like you have a contact number for somebody. That is the purpose of that. And then you'll see for the next, it looks like four pages. This is Lauren communicating back and forth with Project Host that demonstrates a volunteer site confirmation. And you'll see I have a little sticky note that I wrote on here so that I can just quickly demonstrate to the financial specialist that this is a site confirmation, no cost, no need for... There's nothing on the front page of the prior that you need to track back from this email thread. But you can kind of read through here, like, I'm hoping we can volunteer. Do you have room? Yes, they confirm back. This sounds great. We have you on the calendar. Looking forward to seeing you. So that is from Sally. And then you'll see the one to Kim Morgan from Lauren. And that confirmation for the housing. No, not the housing. That is for Frazee, I believe. Yes. More or less what we need is an email back from your people saying, yes, we're going to have you come. This is my contact information. We're looking forward to having you, kind of deal. And then you'll see this is for their housing, the one from Leslie Lang from Fourth Pres, which I'm sure probably is what Greenville's trip, the person maybe Greenville is working with this year. So we're good here. And you'll see like, hi Leslie, we are in the process of filling out the university's paperwork and they need confirmation from you on a few things. Just want to confirm, do we have access to 2 rooms on either side of the gymnasium, which we will be using to separate men and women's sleeping arrangements. Second, we have access to the shower right off the gymnasium. We'll be able to use the kitchen and the cookware again. Can you provide me your contact information? So for especially lodging, if they don't have that information readily available to us on a website, I think, I know MABCR does, I know Charleston it does, James River I'm fairly certain does as well. We just need them to say, yes, like, you are good. You can have the kitchen, you can have the showers. Nice. Okay, scrolling through, we'll go down to the Google Maps. And so this first page, maybe we'll hop down to the second one first. Yep, let's hop down to the second Google Maps first. You'll see that this is round trip from CNU to Fourth Pres, which is Greenville's housing partner. And so, okay, the drive is 428 miles, it's 6 hours and 48 minutes, and I wrote ×2 round trip. So we're looking at like a little shy of 1,000 miles round trip. And so that is so that we can calculate gas cost. So we'll need your like from CNU to wherever it is that you're going to stop first. And then if you scroll up to that first page, you'll see the, why does it say Fourth Pres Church to Fourth Pres Church? It's 3.7 miles. This is the like, oh, okay, this is their round trip between Fourth Pres, Frazee, and Project Host. So they're pretty close to their community partners. You'll see a round trip is 3.7 miles. But on it, I wrote like ×6 days. So more or less what that does is it gives us an extra like justified 25 miles for mileage cost, for gas cost. And then there is their meal plan next. So that is, we'll kind of like call that the MapQuest part. Like that is definitely the information that I need from you all, are these different email threads, the MapQuest stuff, this contact information. And then this meal plan piece. I don't have to have the meal plan for the prior. It would be great. We just need it before Thanksgiving break. But I do not have to submit this with the financial paperwork. But if you have it, it's nice to have. So I absolutely don't need this by like November 14th. So if you need to prioritize yourself, the stuff above this page is definitely what I need from you. They have a long meal plan. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And a good shopping list. And then the next thing that is after the meal plan and the shopping list is the transportation services vehicle requisition. This is something that I will do for the trips. I'm actually probably going to be doing it next week because these vans are a lot harder to come by this year. So I'm just going to reserve these really far out. So I will make sure that this vehicle requisition stuff is taken care of. So things that maybe your trip has that are not included like in this, if you have any contracts or applications or agreements or whatever it is between your community partner or your housing partner and us. So if you have those, that is something that we will need to include in the prior documentation. So I want to quickly draw your attention to what was the second page of this this PDF file is the budget sheet. So if you go to the Google Drive and go to the spring break trips, I'm just popping in Lauren and Hayden's because it's the first one. If you look at the blank budget Google sheet, this is going to be your best friend and it's going to be my best friend. So thank you. The top few boxes, trip location, trip focus, trip dates, that kind of stuff, you can just fill that out. But this is what's really, really going to help us, and is more descriptive than that front page of the prior for the financial specialist. So I'm just going to go line by line on what this is. So we'll go columns, like column A, this is the item, the transportation, lodging, cultural experience. These are the things that we're budgeting for. The description gives us a little bit more. Unit cost, which for each thing is a little bit different. And then you'll see that we have separated quantity based on participants and then also one for the staff. And you'll see these little yellow arrows in the corner, which means that there's a comment there. So like click it and it has a little bit more of a description. So if you click on this comment, it shows number of participants is inclusive of trip leaders. So it also includes you guys. And then for staff cost is that we separate these out because we're hoping we can get some departments or student affairs to sponsor the staff cost. So passenger, just go over to transportation. Passenger van rental. The unit cost we will plug in there. I'm pretty sure we're going to use CNU vans, which I am fairly certain. Per day, it's $72 per day. Last year we did some enterprise vans, but I think we're going to probably stick with all CNU vans this year. So most likely we can end up plugging $72 in there, but more to come on that. But the quantity based on goal participants is 7, and what that is number of days. And then we don't include that for staff costs because having the staff there doesn't actually make the trip, doesn't change the effect of how much the van is going to cost. So if I were even just to do some like quick numbers right now, 72 times 7, I think it's 504. Yeah, 504 is what the number has been in the past for like how much is just the van itself, which like dang, like isn't just renting a van so expensive? Next line is fuel cost, and that you see that weird figure of like 0.246. That is a number determined by the state of Virginia that that's how much money you get per mile, so about a quarter a mile, and that helps us determine fuel cost. And so ooh, sorry, my phone is just, not my phone, my GChat is exploding. So it might pop up again, sorry. You will do miles to drive underneath it, and then I'm pretty sure it's set up to do a just a like computational thing over in totals. So if you say like 100, you know, it'll come up. But again, that does not get put over to staff cost, but because we're going to drive that amount even if a staff member wasn't there, though they have to be there. Anyway, hopefully that makes some sense. Lodging, you'll see location here. Type in where your lodging is, and then unit cost. So do that per person, or if it's just like a flat rate for the whole group, just kind of denote that. We can also put a note down at the bottom of this Excel spreadsheet. And then also include like what is the cost for one staff member on that box next to it. A cultural experience, it can be TBD, we can leave it like that, and what that is it's just something fun to do in the city. Like, we also want you to experience the city while you're there. So I know on my trip last year we went to like a wildlife sanctuary, and it didn't actually end up costing us anything, so we ended up doing like an ice cream night one night and using that $10 per person, which that is a not flexible number, but also helps us give a little bit of cushion if we need it. For a cultural experience, so if you wanted to go to a museum, if you wanted to go to a historical ice cream parlor, like, I don't know, you guys are, oh my gosh, one's going to Wilmington, you guys could do One Tree Hill. Oh my god, that'd be so cute. Okay, you can do whatever you want, but just kind of like researching the area and seeing if there's, are there any military bases or like historic sites to go see or cool attractions to do that kind of connect you back to just like the spirit of the city and the culture of the community. So unit cost $10, quantity based on number of participants is 11, and then it'll do the math for like how much is that going to cost for just participants, and then add it over to staff fee. And then the food piece, it's not as complicated as it looks, I promise. So you have breakfast, lunch, dinner, and dinner out. Your dinner out is optional, but I say like do it. Like, Reach is paying for you guys to go out and spend. It doesn't come out to $18 because you also have tax and tip, but I think I told the students last year like you can spend $15, like that's as much as Reach is going to cover. But if you like just have a nice like lunch out or dinner out, I would say do it, but it is optional and up to you. So breakfast, we approximate that to be about $2.50 per person. Lunch is $3, dinner's $4, and dinner out being $18, which realistically ends up being around $15. And so the numbers next to each of those amounts, you have 6551, that's just kind of auto-populated. These are determined really a lot based on your itinerary. So I know like JR, you guys end up leaving a little bit later than the rest of the trips, so you might have like one less meal that we need to provide in there. But these are like the number of times Carrie as a participant will eat breakfast is 6. And then the number of times me as one person will eat lunch is 5, and then 1. The dinner out number, like, sorry, you can only go one time. We're trying to make it fun, but also participant fees only go so far, and student assembly funding only goes so far. So that number does have to stay at 1, but the other 3 numbers are kind of flexible based on your itinerary. Probably not much flexibility there, but some. And so breakfast ends up being $2.50, and you'll see, I'm going to hop over to staff costs for just a second. I just did like 6 times $2.50 equals 15, and I hand inputted those numbers. So that's just to calculate like staff food. But then quantity based on goal participant number, 11. I'm hopping over to this column that says 66. It could be different for your team. So because you have 11 participants eating breakfast 6 times, there will be 66 breakfasts that need to be accounted for at $2.50 per breakfast. So it ends up being 66 times $2.50, which I don't have the formula set up right now, but I will before I pop it in your folders. 66 times $2.50. I'm not a math whiz. $165, like just for breakfast foods, which I think, bagels go a long way. And then lunch, and you just go ahead and you do that down for every single one of them. You'll see down at the bottom there are some moments of like, some notes of like miles traveled, X miles one way times 2 because of round trip equals X. And these X numbers are like guesstimated. Within city is estimated for the approximately like 50 miles. So, sorry, I was just really confusing on that. Miles traveled, so if you're Greenville, you're going like almost 500 miles. So I think it's 450 miles one way times 2 equals 900 miles, and then transportation to service site and within city travel approximately 50 miles. So, that's just to help Michelle, who's the financial specialist. Groceries purchased and group meals provided / prepared on site. The reason that note is important is because I'm not sure if you all have ever heard of per diem, but that is like money per day per meal that like staff get when they travel. And students also get that when they travel. But that number is just outrageously higher than what it is that we need. And so that's if you're like going out for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like every meal. And since we're not doing that, we need to share that we're buying groceries and that we don't need $9 for every student's breakfast. Because if we were to do that, the prices would be so inflated that we would not get signatures for being able to do these trips because we're spending beyond our means. So that's why we need that note. And then the cultural experience to be determined at location by students, museum tickets, festival, tour, etc. Know that as you're planning your cultural experience, it needs to be something that you're able to like your learning partner is going to be able to do on a credit card. So they're not going to have petty cash probably for the most part, and we need to be able to have a receipt. So just keep that in mind. So if you're like, oh my gosh, we're going to go to like this festival and you just pay like $3 a person, but you can only do cash, like we need receipts. Or we can't justify it, which is kind of a bummer. So that is the blank budget sheet. I know that is just like a crap ton of information. And please, like, do not hesitate to ask us about how to make this a little bit easier for yourself. So that was kind of like the quick version of it. For meal plan, I'm going back to the presentation, the Google Slides presentation. Oh, man. Looking at the Greenville Prior, you'll see a copy of a meal plan. Theirs is like very extensive. I'm pretty sure Alexis did it. So like kudos to Alexis because it is like standing the test of time. It's a really good idea to have kind of like what is your meal idea, what are the items that you need, and then a shopping list. This makes your life so much easier when you're grocery shopping because I promise, like, you don't want to spend a lot of time grocery shopping. You just want to, like, get in and get out. It's going to take a little bit of time, but the more time you spend, like, oh, how many boxes of fruit snacks do we need? Like, you're taking up time from the actual experience. So have it on hand. It is so helpful. Some considerations, and by that I mean we're going to make you have it on hand, like it's not an option. Some considerations to think about as you're planning meals, and like you can do whatever you want, like I don't care what it is that you guys decide you want. What kind of kitchen setup do you have? If you don't know, ask for details. Do you have pots and pans? Do you have a stove, or do you have a hot plate? Do you have an oven? Or do you have access to a refrigerator? How big is the refrigerator? So if there are things that you can prepare early or leftovers, is there anything that you should bring? Do we need probably aluminum foil would be a good thing to bring, but just kind of generally asking like what kind of kitchen equipment do we have access to will help you determine what kind of meals it is that you can make. Also think about meals that can be easily accommodated for different dietary needs and restrictions. So gluten-free, like spaghetti, is super easy because you can have like noodles in one pot and then gluten-free noodles in another pot, and then you can have just like marinara sauce with no meat in one pot and then like marinara sauce with meat in another. So gluten-free, vegetarian, vegan, peanut allergies, there's a lot. So just kind of be conscientious of that you're not like steak and potatoes every day, because it'll be tough for folks with dietary restrictions and needs to eat. The syllabus, this document is the go-to guide for your participants and their parents, and this is where they're going to get a lot of their answers from. This is something that they'll get probably at like their second group meeting once we get back in January. And this is something that can be updated up until the minute. So if things change, it's not like we're printing them at Thanksgiving break. We want to be able to review them, offer some suggestions, and just kind of make sure that we have everything down pat for, and this is the like information, there'll be a syllabus, whatever, copy in the Google Drive in this folder for you to look at, and you just need to update it with your itinerary, your locations, your learning objectives, your packing list, your contact information. Y'all are smart people. We just need to make this a presentable document is really what we need. And then for your reflection plan to have a reflection every night. So probably around 5 activities. Reflection is so important because it is very possible that you have a crappy day at volunteering at your service site, or something happened, or someone's just like, you have no idea what's going on with people, and it's just important, I guess, to maybe bring some room for conversation for those hard moments. I know, like when I went to the Border Collie Rescue, not this past year, but the year before, the group I was with left a gate open, and one of the dogs attacked and killed a baby lamb. Well, I guess it's a baby sheep, but you get it, a lamb. And it really affected the group, and through being able to process through some of that in reflection, it didn't make it okay, but we were all able to kind of make some meaning of what happened. So it could be that a kid you're working with told them about their home life, and it's really not great, and it's just a chance for people to process, and even if it may have been a hard moment, that there's meaning that can be made from it. It's also maybe an opportunity to just kind of get a pulse of the group and check in and get to know each other better. Perhaps there could be a participant that you don't think is particularly engaged, and you're like, okay, seriously, you don't talk, you don't, what is happening? But then you're like, wow, they have really, really awesome observations from service. I remember Jake last year just had awesome contributions during reflection time, and not that Jake was lollygagging, he was getting stuff done, but he wasn't the most talkative person in our group. That was probably Lucas, but you know that they're engaged and that this process means something and really helps them make connections back. And so plan to have some kind of reflection every night, probably around 5 activities. And some things to consider, are there prompts that you want to do every night? Do you want to do highs and lows? Do you want to do rosebud and thorn? Do you want to, I don't know, whatever it is that you want to do, pick it. Usually some consistency is good, or shout outs or something, but consistency is usually good so people know what it is to, they can predict what it is they're going to be asked. Also consider introverts. Are there opportunities for smaller group reflections, maybe to have one trip leader break off with one part of the group and another trip leader to break off with another part of the group? I know we did the 26 questions to fall in love last year, and so the 2 trip leaders and a learning partner, we broke up into groups of 3 or 4, and it was really cool to be able to do that. Or is there maybe guided individual reflection that you want to do? So do you want to create a journal and a journal prompt that we can pull together for you guys to take? And then plan to have maybe a mix of light and some heavier activities. So, maybe your first night you're not getting into bearing your soul, but a chance to transition into it. And Alexis said she's going to upload a copy of a reflection plan that another trip did before, but I love reflection activities. I think it was like super, super powerful for people to be able to make connections back to their life, back in Newport News. And this is what really drives, I think, that like communal feeling home. Whew, man, I've been talking for 39 minutes, you guys. Whoa. Okay, I promise I'd try to make this short, and hopefully this is a little bit shorter than like the 2.5 hour training that we had planned before for this weekend. So I wish I could ask you if you have any questions, but you aren't here in person. So please, 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 if you have questions, connect with Alexis and I. As you are pulling together supporting paperwork for priors, you can send that to Alexis and I piecemeal, or you can kind of like put it all in one folder and then like, hey, go and look at the Google Drive. Like, all of our information is there. Alexis is really going to be a great sounding board for this for you guys, but also if you're like, I'm confused about something and I learned better in person, like last year Lauren and I sat down and talked through everything last year, like I am happy to do that at any point. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm losing my voice from talking so long. So yeah, that is, I think, about it for now. Alexis mentioned that she touched base with all of you for some logistics around the participant draft, so that will be coming out quick, so fast. Oh my gosh. And we would love any support and promotion that you all can do for us around those applications. And I'm really excited to, I don't know, like our fall break application numbers was we had 36 and we had 12 spots. And so I'm very excited and both very nervous about what we can do for spring. So I won't belabor this any further. Please let us know if you have any questions. We are here to be helpful on that, and I can, there's some administrative things that I need to be able to do to make sure that these trips happen. So happy to be that connecting point. I think that's it for now. Thanks so much for giving me 41 minutes of your time today, and we will see y'all soon. Thanks. Have a good one.